It was the hot mic heard around the world. A usually chill and somewhat held together Lisa Barlow blew up and started to vent her frustration with her longtime friend Meredith Marks. And boy, did she have a lot to say.
Here's the problem though. Instead of it being a private moment of blowing off steam, all the smoke was caught on camera for all the world and Meredith to hear.
Dumb family that poses. Why don't you own a house? Wait, you can't. Because your husband changes jobs every 5 minutes?
And mind you, this wasn't just a few shady comments, it was a total teardown, with Lisa ripping to shreds so many aspects of Meredith's perfectly curated public life.
How do you think my kids feel about the things you just said about me and the rest of the world?
It was scathing, deeply personal, and filled with painful daggers only a close friend could know and weaponize. Lisa was having a moment many people have had. You have issues with a friend, and they've been building up for years, and you've been collecting bones, letting things slide, smiling in public, but perhaps boiling in private. Perhaps you've also had your own personal rants away from everyone else because you had to do something, anything, to vent your pent-up frustrations. What I find fascinating about this incident is a trend that I've noticed when friendships go left on reality TV.
When ex-friends fall out, you forget they were even close in the first place.
People say the worst things about each other, bringing up insecurities, past misdeeds, and long-held secrets. People go from having each other's backs to spilling tea at breakneck speed, and it puts the friendship in a place where it might not ever be healed. One of the pillars of close friendship is the sharing of private and intimate information. One thing I notice a lot on TV is how that information and intimacy of said friendship gets weaponized, and all that information becomes public fodder and sharp jabs that hurt a lot. In this case, we know that Meredith and Seth Marks went through a rough patch in their marriage and almost got divorced. And I'm sure Lisa would have heard a lot about what was going on because she would have been a shoulder Meredith would cry on.
Seth and I have been separated on and off for a very long time.
But what happens when that shoulder to cry on puts all the things shared with you in confidence out on Front Street?
The ultimate betrayal.
It's the height of fighting dirty, hitting below the belt and going for the jugular. And I believe it's entirely avoidable. Believe it or not, there is a way we can express frustration with our friends without nuking the whole relationship. And it's an important skill we need to learn in life.
So why do we do this? Why do we fight dirty with former friends? And what can we do instead?
The problem with blowing up and hitting below the belt is, no matter how wrong the other party is, you'll always come out looking like the bad guy. Even if you have valid grievances, you'll always look awful and risk your own reputation in the process. It also destroys a friendship that could have been patched up with a heartfelt conversation. Just look at Lisa and Meredith. It's very clear that the hot mic did a lot of damage to their relationship.
I made a lot of comments that I feel sorry for. Are my words awful? Yes.
And even though Lisa apologized many times, they are still clearly on shaky ground. And that's the ultimate danger. You could lose a friend because you momentarily lost your cool, and sometimes repairing things might just not be possible. Now, of course, I know that there are times where your friend will do something that ticks you off, maybe even repeatedly, but that doesn't mean you should use rage to express yourself. I think we often turn the hurt we feel in a friendship outwards and attempt to hurt the person back, using angry words and raised voices to drive home our point. But this isn't mature.
Here's the thing. Conflict is inevitable. And there's something to be said about dealing with it in a less damaging way.
If you've been friends for a long time, there are going to be disappointments, mistakes, and issues that are going to arise along the way. I think it's important to learn to express these things without blowing up or saying something scathing. It's important to learn to communicate your feelings and address moments of conflict from a place of love and honoring the friendship. The problem with not expressing your negative emotions as they arise is that they'll just keep building up and they will ultimately boil over, often in an explosive attack, much like what Lisa did. And then there might not be any going back.
If you are able to be accountable and you want to move forward, your behavior is not acceptable.
When we find ourselves in a very inflamed situation with a friend, we have to develop the skill of calmly and respectfully communicating and taking in feedback without turning it into a fight.
Now, here's the thing you must face in this situation. You might discover that your friend isn't as receptive as you would like, that they denied their wrongdoing, get defensive, or even start attacking you. In that case, you then have to question if you have a friendship worth saving or if it's time to walk away. Conflict can either be the impasse that spells the end of the friendship or an opportunity to deepen your relationship by doing the work. What determines what it will be is the willingness of the person in the wrong to own their mistakes, take in feedback, improve, and act differently. Lisa Barlow's meltdown is a cautionary tale of what happens when expressed frustration in a friendship boils over.
It reminds us of the importance of communicating how we feel calmly and respectfully as we go along in our friendships and relationships instead of it piling up and becoming this full-on forest fire.
Ultimately, conflict happens, but how you deal with it determines the long-term success of your friendship.